Welcome to Tracks to Success, brought to you by Presentation Partners. This is the podcast that brings you inspiring people and their inspiring stories. How did they find their way to the top, and how can their path help you do the same? Here's your host, network broadcaster, executive, and entrepreneur, Kraig Kann.
Right now on Tracks to Success, you'll hear from one of the most popular women on television. And whether or not you know her as so many do depends on how much you know about the weather. She's a Florida girl who actually has degrees from Florida State and Florida. She's probably okay with you calling her Spacey, and we'll discuss why. She's made a living covering natural disasters, but loves the calm of the outdoors and travels more than most. She's not just a meteorologist. She's an entertainer, and slapstick humor is part of her shtick. It must be pretty cool to hang with the likes of Al Roker, Jim Cantori, and Mike Bettis. But the woman who's mixed on-air push-up contests with being planted directly in the eye of the storm is clearly her own brand. A ray of sunshine for those she works with, and a darn good reason to wake up for the weather. Her name is Stephanie Abrams. Her inspiring story and this edition of Tracks to Success starts now. Stephanie, this is an absolute blast to have you doing this podcast. I just need you to know that up front.
I think just as excited. I mean, it's been a while since we've chatted, so I'm super excited to catch up.
It's going to be fun. So let's tell people, just for the sake of this, how we met. It was actually through the camera, and I want to see how well you remember this. Each of us in a separate studio, right? I was hosting the pregame show on Golf Channel. Yeah. It was the Masters week. And you were giving us Masters weather on like the 8s or the 10s or whatever. And neither of us like to have any fun at all. So it was pretty much of a boring segment. Is that how you remember?
Totally boring. Yeah. It was awful. I remember. Yeah.
Okay. I just wanted to see if you repeated that story to a bunch of people, or is this something that you and I are the only ones that know?
No, I remember. I feel like you and I were kibitzing about one of the holes because I had looked up weather facts and the holes. And I feel like there was some exchange about one of the holes, or there was something about weather and holes. And I just said holes a lot of times, and it just sounded really awkward. But am I right or am I wrong?
I think you were right. We were probably talking about how the weather might be different on the first tee as it might have been at Amen Corner on 12, 13, 14, 13, 14, 15, et cetera. Those holes, you know? So we might have been talking about that.
I think so. I'm just trying to not say hole again for like the 45th time in a row now.
Okay. So let's do this. First things on the question front. We could talk a lot about meteorology, and we will, but we need to start this thing with talking about you going to space camp. Are you serious?
Twice, by the way. I went twice. So long story short, my dad loves space. He loves all science. He was really why I got into science. Was he took us, to the national parks when we were kids, Halley's Comet when we were kids. He had a telescope. He brought us outside. I don't really remember, but I think I remember seeing Halley's Comet. I was really little. And we grew up in Florida. And so we used to watch all the launches in school. And first space camp we went to was actually in Florida. And then the second one was when we were a little bit older, and they started having it in Alabama. And that's when you go for, a whole week or whatever. And it was, I still to this day, one of the best experiences of my life, with the exception of the fact that during our mission, you actually fly a real mission, someone forgot to close the payload bay doors. And so we burned up in reentry.
Oh my gosh. But you're still alive to tell the story.
Thankfully, yes. But we did not win. You win awards at the end. I don't think our team won a single award.
Okay. Actually, you got one of the greatest awards, greatest honors, probably in your life. You were inducted into the Space Camp Hall of Fame in 2012?
Yeah, but Kraig, I think from the gist that I'm getting from you, I feel like you need to go to space camp. I think that's what's really behind this. And they do have adult space camp. If you want to go, I could hook you up.
What am I going to learn? Seriously.
Well, hopefully you learn to close the payload bay doors when you go there.
Yes.
But it's really, you get to do all these things that make you feel weightless. You get to wear the whole outfit, you know what I mean? Like the jumper, you get to set off rockets. I remember doing that. There's lots of really fun stuff.
Okay. Let's table that for now. Let's go back to your childhood. And I want to know where you grew up and what kind of a kid you were on the neighborhood block.
I grew up in West Palm Beach, Florida, and I was a tomboy to the point where I got stung by 2 yellow jackets right underneath my eye when we were playing baseball because one of the neighbors' mailbox had one of those bushes around it, and I went flying into it and got stung. I also got a fat lip one time when I was playing with the boy neighbors. So I was a rough and tumble kid outside, no shoes, bathing suit, and like wrestling type of a kid.
Oh my.
Played sports. I was definitely a tomboy.
So what's your best sport? Like the secret to your success as a child, what sport did you compete with the guys and like beat them?
Tennis was my sport. That's what I grew up playing. And I still love tennis to this day. But you know, I was definitely the tomboy. I was rough and tumble, and I still am. I'm really not interested in, you know, stereotypical girly things. Like I don't get my nails done. I can't stand shopping. I mean, I'm not into any of that stuff. Oh my, it is torture for me. When my husband and I go shopping, I'm like the dude sitting in the corner, you know, reading my phone while he's shopping.
So you never saw Hamilton? You don't want to go to Broadway or do any plays?
Yeah, so I love Broadway.
Okay.
I definitely do love Broadway. We go to so many shows. That's definitely one of the top things we do in our lives.
Okay, that's cool. Now, who gave you, back in your childhood days, the tools and the confidence to do what you're doing now? Who was your influencer when you were a kid?
So, you know, my dad was a very hard worker. He was a physician, infectious disease specialist, HIV specialist. And I saw my dad working, you know, 14, 16-hour days. He had his own practice. And so I saw that work ethic and it fit my personality, that work ethic. So I got my work ethic from him. Now, when it comes to confidence, you know, my family, there was multiple divorces and whatnot. And, you know, my deal was like, I had to make it on my own. Like I wasn't going home. I had to make it on my own. And so, you know, that really was a catalyst for me being successful and making sure that I was successful.
So you go through high school and then you do something that very few people could ever A, say they did, and B, be allowed to do without serious turmoil. Do you know where I'm going with this?
No, I'm not sure. I know what you're talking about. Florida State.
You went to Florida and Florida State. I mean, that's like going to Auburn and then going, you know, I'm going to get my master's at Alabama. Or if you're like me and you're a Missouri guy saying, you know what, I think I'll go pick up an extra degree from Kansas. That just doesn't happen. It's not allowed.
I know. Well, I need to make it known that I bleed orange and blue. I'm very thankful for my degree from Florida State, but I bleed orange and blue. Now, how I got there was my dad went to Michigan undergrad in Miami Medical School. That's how we ended up in South Florida. Okay. My sister also went to Michigan undergrad. We used to go, and I was raised by my father, and we used to go to football games in the winter. And, you know, dad's like, oh, here, throw this little windbreaker on. You'll be fine, you know? And meanwhile, it's like snowing, you know, we're sitting there in this thing. And I said to my sister, dude, this is crazy. But all I knew was maize and blue. And I still cheered for Michigan like crazy. And so I got accepted. I said, here, Dad, I'm going to save you 30 grand a year or whatever. And I'm going to go to Florida where it's $50 a credit and it's warm. And so I went to UF knowing I wanted to do math and science. I did physics, chemistry, oceanography, geology, every math and science, you know, I could possibly do, have a minor in math, the whole thing. And I fell in love with meteorology because it explained why the sky was blue, why, you know, in Florida, it rains on one side of the street, not the other. And I was also influenced by Hurricane Andrew, which came through South Florida in 92.
Yes.
And it was south of us. We were in West Palm. We didn't have damage, but we drove to the Keys after it. And I just remember thinking, how in the world did wind and rain do this? This is wild. And so that's, you know, why I ended up in meteorology. I took my, you know, like meteorology 101, and I fell absolutely in love with it. So they didn't have a program at Florida. Long story longer, I got my minor in math, my geography degree, everything transferred to Florida after, and I got my meteorology degree there, Florida State, I should say.
So you didn't know necessarily you wanted to be a meteorologist when you got to Florida?
Not 100%. I knew that I wanted to do something math or science related. Okay. And for a long time, I wanted to be a volcanologist. I thought volcanoes were just the coolest. I mean, they still are. How, you know, could they not be? And then I wanted to be an oceanographer because I love the ocean, you know, growing up in Florida and whatnot. And for some reason with meteorology, I think seeing Andrew and then the fact that there was so much math and physics and it can explain all these things around us that we see every day, I fell in love with it.
I just learned a new word. I'd never heard of volcanologist. Seriously, like I can't imagine walking up to a girl in high school or college and saying, what do you want to do? And you drop that on me. I wouldn't even know where to go with that.
I'd like to be a volcanologist.
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't know where I go with that. So a lot of people, and I did the local TV thing for like 8 years. All right.
Yep.
And the weather guys and the weather women, does that work? Does that work for you?
Meteorologists.
Okay. Yeah. They always said that too. They would always say, the producer would come and say, Kraig, we need to steal 30 seconds from your sportscast. And I'm like, oh, here we go again. And it always went to the weather person, the meteorologist. They took my time. But I don't think people at home really realize how much more there is to it than just standing in front of a green screen, which I think scares people anyway. So there is so much involved to going out there and presenting the weather. Fair?
I would say fair. I mean, a couple of things people don't know is that we ad lib. And I know you can vouch for that, meteorologists go out there, there's no scripts.
Yep.
So we have to study it and know exactly what we're talking about. And on top of that, weather is never the same, which is one of the reasons I love it. That
weather's also been around for a number of years.
Just a few.
Okay.
And I always like to say the atmosphere is like a hamburger. And so it's not like you're just looking at one thing and determining the weather. You literally have to look at every single layer in the atmosphere to determine what the heck is going to happen for all events. For severe winter, it doesn't matter.
Do you like the fact that people tell weather people that they're wrong almost all the time?
If I had, if I could make money of 50% wrong all the time, I'm like, if I could make money off how many times someone has said that to me, then
I have a buddy I went to college with, okay, and he's a meteorologist, and he ended up in Seattle. And I said, dude, that is the easiest gig in local news, being a weather person in Seattle, because it's 60 degrees and drizzle every day. I mean, who can't do that? He makes way too much money. Now he runs his own business, so it's not that big of a deal. But there is so much more to it, and I know the math and all that stuff, plays into it. So, all right. I know you just brought up one of the hurricanes that you were talking about that influenced you, and I was going to get to that in a second, but you're way ahead of me. So you've been right in the middle of it. Tell us what a meteorologist feels inside, okay, when there is an impending hurricane or there's, a tornado watch warning, etc. What happens inside you?
I think the best way to describe it is, if you're watching NASCAR or something and you hear those engines revving, and they're getting ready to go, I think that's the best way to describe it. Inside of me, everything's revving. And I'm thinking, okay, I've got to remember to say this. I've got to remember to warn people about this. I need to remember to explain this and how this happens and why this is going to happen. And so I think that engine just starts going of everything that I need to remember to make sure that, I communicate and articulate well enough.
So with that, let's talk about some specific hurricanes because they've had such an effect on people and obviously a huge effect on you in your career. You talked about Andrew and Francis, Katrina. Is there anything that stands out? I mean, I was researching and looking at stuff. I mean, you've been almost hit by debris. Maybe you have been hit by debris, but do you ever get scared for your life? I know you're reporting and providing a service, but my gosh.
No, I can understand that. So, a couple things. Katrina and then subsequently Michael, nothing compares to those hurricanes that have the surge that just wipe out a community. I mean, there's no words to describe it except for it feels like you're on a movie set. I remember specifically saying that to my colleague, Jim Cantorius. I feel like I'm on a movie set. It is that outrageous and hard to describe.
Yeah.
No, I don't fear for my life because being meteorologist and unfortunately we get a bad name, but we know it's going to happen. And I remember being in, I believe it was Ike, and seeing people stand on the seawall, right? In Galveston. And I'm thinking these people are insane because those waves are going to crash over. I would never do that. So having that degree, having that background, that experience, I know where, to stand, what to do. And I thought to myself, when those winds shift around, these people are in trouble, and I know when that wind shift is going to happen. So having that experience and knowledge, even in Michael, we were right where it was going to come in. All right. We got to Mexico Beach, which is where, it came in, and we were just to the east of Mexico Beach, in a house. And they told me that it was rated for this, that, and the other, and blah, 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 blah. But it was on the beach. It was literally just on the other side of, A1A. And I was like, are you kidding me? There's a Cat 5. Absolutely not. And I said, that's it. We're out. And we left that morning because it was not worth it for me. I don't need an Emmy. I don't need the attention. It's not about that. It's about getting, people safe. I'm not there for, the attention. And I left because I'm not putting my crew in danger, not putting myself in danger, and these crews, it's their livelihood, and I'm not putting everyone's life in danger. That would be on me. And so we left, and I made sure we went to Panama City Beach, and we were safe and fine there, and, able to broadcast the whole time, and everyone was fine.
So as we watch these things, and let's face it, when weather hits, if you will, our TV sets go on, and we rely on you, and we're looking for that credibility factor. And yet there's an unpredictability to it as well. Here's what the current model says, and here's the track. And I live in Florida, so, I'm following the track, and then it veers off to the right, and everybody's already been shopping, and everybody's boarded up their house and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Do you ever think about the credibility factor? Is that something that goes through your mind?
Yeah, absolutely. And, what's really challenging for us is that people might hear one thing and then they hold on to that, and they, aren't necessarily listening to the other things that you're saying, or they just look at the cone. And, so it's definitely the most challenging part, or one of the most challenging parts of our job is kind of to articulate when to do what, when, and why all this is happening type of a thing. Because the reality is, I'm having a mental block. The one that just came up the coast of Florida and ended up making landfall in the Outer Banks just last season. It was a real close call with Florida. And, listen, a mile or two difference offshore, that's too close to call, so there are some times when, unless it's 20 miles offshore, if you're messing with a mile, 2 miles, 10 miles, that's just too close. You've got to be prepared.
Yeah. So when they announce, I guess, at the beginning of the year, tell me how this works. When they announce the names for the hurricanes for the year, is that a big day at the Weather Channel?
Well, here's the thing. You can see them all online, and they rotate every 6 years, and they just, when one is retired, they stick another name in there. But I do think it's something, that people look forward to every year. Is their name going to be on the list? Do they know someone's name that's going to be on the list? But it's not always something, that you want to be excited about, right? Because these can do real destruction.
Of course.
And, it's one of those things where it's like, you're kind of excited to see your name, but on the same time, it's like, oh no, because there's certain names that just live in infamy and people, relate to.
So let's talk about that for a second. The seriousness, the severity, the tragedy. I'm sure just as much as you're on the front line as a storm is moving in, you're also there reporting on the aftermath.
Yeah.
How difficult is that?
It is. And when I first started, I had major survivor's guilt coming back to my apartment. Everything was fine. But you talk to these people, and literally their lives have been wiped clean of the foundation of their home. Don't know how to start, where to start, financially how to come back. It's really, really tough. No matter where you are, the hurricane, even a tornado or flooding, it's just overwhelming. With Harvey, all of that flooding. And I've been to tornadoes where a home is gone, and people might say, oh, well, it's just a home. And I agree with that, as long as everyone's happy, but that's hard to rebuild from. Really, really tough.
Yeah. Stephanie Abrams is our guest on this edition of Tracks to Success. Tracks to Success is brought to you by Presentation Partners, visual storytellers passionate about connecting presenters with their audience. All right, Stephanie, you aren't just a weather person or a meteorologist. You are an entertainer, right? I think that's fair. I've seen push-ups, you doing push-ups on camera, and a lot of other goofy stuff. You have fun with your job. What are some other things I haven't seen?
Oh my goodness. What have you, for some reason, I just looked at a picture that I was doing a back bend. I'm like, why am I doing a back? What is wrong with you, Abrams? Like, really, what is wrong with you? But let me try to think of, I've done incredible things. To do a story I pitched, about the atmosphere. I wanted to go skydiving to be able to articulate what it is. I've danced with people. I really think for me at least, I always wondered, why do people love Oprah? Right? All those years when we were growing, why do people love Oprah? It's because she's real, she's vulnerable, she's herself.
Yes.
And so I was like, you know what? My goal is just to be myself. And so I'm as close to myself as I am on camera as I am off camera. There's a little editing because it's a family show.
Yeah.
Just kidding. But, I really just am true to myself. And I think that when you see someone on TV and you happen to really like them and connect with them, they're being true to, you can just feel it. You feel that realness and that vulnerability and that openness.
Oh, I think people love that when people could say, you know what, I might have messed this up. I mean, if any golf fans are truly listening to this right now and they heard me talk about Amen Corner and I rattle off the holes, they're going to go, wait, come on, Kann, don't you know what the holes are for Amen Corner? Of course I know what the holes are for Amen Corner. And you just have to say, hey, I said something wrong. I did this wrong. Yeah. Here's the real me. This is me on TV. I'm presenting with you. I'm having fun with you. At the end of the day, it's all about entertainment. And if people follow you, Stephanie, on social media, they get a real dose of the real Stephanie Abrams. I mean, you use that to your advantage.
I don't know how to be any other way. So that's a plus for me, is I don't feel comfortable. I feel weird if it's not authentic and if it's not real. And, for anyone listening out there, I also have no problem with people that troll or any of that stuff. I just delete them and move on. Like, this is me. If you don't like it, okay, then you're blocked. Like, it's not a democracy. My social media is not a democracy. And I also think it's silly to, clap back at these people because you're doing exactly what they're doing to you, type of a thing. And so, someone today, in fact, was just saying how, they can't watch me anymore because I got so much plastic surgery. Well, I'm the most natural person on the planet. I like to eat it's never even, and so I delete, block, like done. I just don't engage in these people and I'm just myself and, take it or leave it.
So we can officially say you've never had any work done and they deserve to be blocked.
Absolutely. Yes.
Good
I've
for
never
you.
Had work done.
Good
Let's
for
put it
you.
out there.
By the way, you think social media is a great tool, though, as well, to connect with people, do you not? But you probably have to use it in a certain way. How do you feel about social?
Okay, so I think it is a phenomenal tool to connect. 100% I'm with you on that. You have to not worry about the haters, though. I mean, it's so silly that listen, I learned this a long time ago. You only get fired up and upset about something if you believe it to be true or part of it to be true. So for instance, if I said, oh, well, you're just a purple people eater, you would be like, haha, whatever, that doesn't make any sense. But if someone offends you and calls you, dumb or, whatever it is that upsets you, you'll get riled up because you think it to be true. And so for me now, I take when people insult me and I check myself and I'm like, okay, am I getting fired up? Okay, I need to work on the fact that I don't have self-esteem about this, or this. And so I use it as a tool in my advantage, right? And so I think it's an interesting study and you just have to be careful who you're following. Like, okay, mute people or don't follow them if they, if you don't enjoy their content.
Yeah.
So it's like, we're in a democracy. You don't have to fire back at people that are being sassy and everything else. So that's kind of my take on social media is, use the positive in it.
Try to provide value, try to entertain, try to give people something they can't get somewhere else. Be authentic and be real.
In addition to hosting this podcast, Kraig leads the Kann Advisory Group, focused on elevating communication for companies and individuals. Company consulting, empowering team and individual workshops, mind-altering webinars, and Kraig's inspiring keynotes for your conference or company meeting. They're all on the menu of services. Kann Advisory helps companies clarify their message, helps professionals build and showcase their brand, and helps everyone present their best selves. So if you're the leader of a team or company looking to give your employees a game-changing one-day experience, or an individual who wants to become a speaker and presenter that gets other people talking, visit cannadvisory.com. And when you do connect, make sure to mention the Tracks to Success podcast to receive a special discount on any of the Kann Advisory services. That's cannadvisory.com. Now back to the interview.
Let me throw some names out of people that you work with, and you give me, 30 seconds, whatever. Tell me a story about your time with them. Let's talk about Mike Betts first, okay?
Yes.
You guys kind of were linked together early on. You had your own
yes,
show
but not
together.
married. Everyone thinks we're married. Can we also
Really?
put that out there? Oh my God. Google Stephanie Abrams, Mike Bettis has this whole thing about how his current wife was. It's like the most ridiculous thing. It's literally like, those things are public knowledge. You could go see that but there's a whole story online about how we were married, and it's hilarious.
Oh my.
Yeah.
All right.
Anyway, Bettis, I digress.
Yes. Jim Cantori. I mean,
Okay.
everybody knows this guy.
Yeah. He is also the same person on TV as he is off. He is that intense. Hey, Cam, man, it's time to go. All right, Abrams, I'm tying my shoes. Like, he's just this real passionate dude about everything. He's so fun also to hang out with, outside of work and whatnot. But I would say he is as passionate on TV as he is off TV about everything.
Is his nickname really Can Man?
Can Man. He has a lot of different nicknames, but Can Man is definitely top of the list.
That's been one of my nicknames since I don't even know when. So I like him even more now. Okay,
yeah.
So you almost threw me there for a second. Let's talk about Al Roker. Wake Up with Al. Okay,
yes.
You're getting to be like with all the cool people on the Today Show now.
Yeah, and everyone is so nice. Roker, I have to say, is one of the most compassionate, hardworking. This dude does not stop. Like, you think, oh, you get to the top, you can kick your feet up.
Mm-hmm.
No, he runs his own production company. He's doing Today Show. He was doing Wake Up with Al with me. He's the first person there, last person. I mean, he is a really hard worker and so thoughtful and kind and inclusive and generous. I can't say enough good things about him.
Best unscripted moment from any of the three people that I just mentioned.
Oof. There was one time when Bettis, I kept talking and he just put his hand out and dragged me off the set. That was actually a pretty funny moment that we shared on air.
Oh my gosh.
That was a good one.
And by the way, you're so good at boomerang too. You do a lot of boomerang on social media.
Because as you know, when you do TV, it's good to have movement, right?
Yeah.
So I think the boomerang is a very shortcut way to have movement in your video.
Got it. What do you do away from work? Are you like the nerd type that sits around and reads books? Are you a Netflix person? Do you like college football? Do you watch games? Are you glued to that? What do you do?
Basically, yes, and yes. So as I mentioned, shopping is not my thing. Getting my hair done and that all stuff is not my thing. So I'm a big reader. I do really like books. I definitely love watching Netflix. I would love to get back into playing tennis more. I was doing marathons for a while, and just recently I've gotten into Pilates, which has been my big thing. But I also really like to cook because I'm also super passionate about how food affects your mental health and just your healthy body anyway. And so I'm really passionate about that and hoping at some point I can get into, mental health and controlling your mind. I'm really, really interested in that. And meditation, does it help? Does it not help? And just basically overcoming your negative self-talk and how to do that. Because like anything in life, you have to take actual action. There's all these wonderful speakers and everything, but for me, it comes down to I have to stop myself and take action. And one thing that helps me do that is the way I eat. And so that's for me is a very big interest.
So I bring 5 people over to dinner at Stephanie Abrams' house. You're cooking in 30 seconds or less. What's our meal?
Okay, well, we could have lentil sloppy joes if you'd like, which is nothing processed, all from scratch, no sugar or any of that sort of stuff.
Okay.
With perhaps some air fryer. I got an air fryer I'm obsessed with, cauliflower on the side. And then for dessert, I can make you my homemade banana ice cream with my homemade almond butter, which is basically just frozen bananas, and I can make it into an ice cream. And then you put my almond butter is just almonds and coconut oil that I make myself and mix it all together. And you could add some frozen berries to that. So it's like a peanut butter and jelly ice cream. It's really good. Does that sound up to par?
That's awesome.
Yeah. And then you feel good when you leave. You don't feel gross and bloated and all that sort of stuff. And your body can use the nutrients and you're on your way.
How much speaking do you do to groups? And what's your message to people? Because my gut tells me that they just want to know what it's like to be in the line of fire when weather hits.
Yeah.
Do you have a message?
I would say most people ask me about the storms, and I should really do a proper message about, your life storm and being in actual storms, and share more about my life. I think it would really help a lot of people. But when I do start talking about, some more personal stuff, you get a lot of people that are just like, thank you so much for sharing that type of a thing. So yeah, I mean, there's definitely some sort of connection between real life storms and then just your inner storm.
So you just nailed one of my questions, because we see bad weather a whole lot, and we all face in life the challenge of weathering a storm. So there has to be some moments in your career. I mean, we both do TV. Yeah. You've had to weather some storms in your personal life. How have you gone through those? What's one that's been the biggest, toughest challenge for you?
There was one time when I was going through something really, really tough. And what's interesting is people don't know, we would go to a commercial break. This is a while now. And I would be crying during commercial break, coping with this personal thing on the side, right? In my 10 minutes I had off air, and then you boom, have to get right back on air. And it's like, wipe those tears and let's do this. And so I think people can relate to that, whether you're on TV or not. Perhaps if you're a teacher or if you're in an office, it's like you go have your moment, and then you have to come back and, get right back in that conference room or in front of the students or in front of patients. And we're doing the same thing on TV. And I'd really love to break that barrier and let people know really what it's like, Mm-hmm. And so I think everyone can relate to that, where you have a big meeting or something and you're stressed and there's something else going on in your life. Too bad. You better either go cry it out or suck it up or whatever, and you've got to show up.
Yeah. I found myself in my TV career challenged to do show after show after show, 3 a day. How do you stay motivated?
Here's the best thing. I literally love what I do. And so it's incredible. I've been at the Weather Channel. It'll be 17 years this year. I started in 2003, and I still love it. And I think that's the key in life. Everyone's like, well, what would you do if you weren't a meteorologist? And I was like, you know what? That's a good question, but I would be doing whatever it is that I love. And that is key in life. And you will be successful if you do something that you love, because when you're passionate, when you're really in love with something, it just flows through you. And so I think that's really key. And I got lucky that I figured it out at a young age, and I've been able to live that for so many years. I feel very lucky.
Is there a next someday for Stephanie Abrams? I mean, you have so much fun, as you've talked about, doing what you do. Yeah. Have you ever thought about a career pivot, what that might be, what it looks like, where you might want to go?
Well, I'd love to go to space if that's an option. I think that would be.
Of course.
I still think about that on a regular basis. That would be mega cool for me. I really would like, I really like the mental health and like natural food type of a thing. I really like that a lot. And I'm very passionate about it. Mm-hmm. And so I've been thinking about that, along the way. So we'll see.
Seems like you could be on the cooking channel or cooking network.
Well, I mean, I think like people, this day and age, so many people are so misinformed. Like everyone will say to me, oh, I said, listen, if you literally buy one ingredient food, you will feel better. You will lose weight. Things will be clearer, but I don't think people understand how much that really can make a difference in their lives, mm-hmm. And getting over your, like with all, with everything that's going on in the world, I try to really stop myself and get my head straight. And it's been years of practice doing that. Like, okay, that's an irrational thought. Let's stop that, but it takes a lot of work, just like going to the gym, just like your job. I mean, you really have to be in tune and take the action.
Couple of career questions before we go. I'm assuming people have told you you're probably an incredible mentor to other people that maybe are interning or some that want to be in the business. And my gut tells me as well that you really enjoy that. How important is it to have a mentor? You didn't get where you are without one, I guarantee it.
I didn't. So it's interesting to say how I actually ended up on my career is I'll tell you the story real quick. Couldn't get a job like everyone when you graduate college, right? Like you can't ever get a job. A guy left the ABC affiliate in Tallahassee to go do weekends in Delaware. And they give me the job. I'm making $19,500. And the morning guy, a few months after I'm there, gets arrested for writing bad checks. No joke.
Oh my.
They put me on mornings. I was like, can I have a raise? They're like, no. I'm like, cool, I'll do it. And so, I'm doing mornings. Well, I had no shame in my game, Kraig. I literally got a list of all alumni and even people I didn't know. And I said, hi, back in the day, this is VHS tapes. Hi, my name's Stephanie. Will you please look at my tape? I sent it from Janice Huff to Dallas Raines and everyone in between, New York and LA. And I had so many people give me feedback and help. One of those people happened to be at the Weather Channel. And her name was Terry Smith. And so she said, well, send me a tape every month. I'll critique it. Great. Thank you. And so that was kind of how, I ended up there. I was at the ABC affiliate for 9 months and she just kept sending me my tape back and I'd send her another one. And I just had no shame, right? Like if people think I'm a weirdo, fine, but I don't really care. What's the worst thing someone's going to say? So that's how I got into the Weather Channel actually. Was doing that, was just having, so now I like to do that for other people. So if my professor says, hey, will you review something? Sure, absolutely. Send it my way.
Yeah.
Now it's YouTube though, not VHS, but.
Do you get a lot of calls from, students or would-be meteorologists or those that are in, Yuma, Arizona or, Biloxi, Mississippi that want to do what you do?
Yeah, here and there, here and there. And I think now that there's,
you're so high profile, and I mean that in the most positive way. You are on, it's kind of like golf, right? There's not 12 golf channels. There's not 12 weather channels. If you want to watch the weather and you're going to turn on the Weather Channel, you're going to see Stephanie Abrams. You turn on the Today Show.
I don't feel like that. I feel like every other person, you know what I mean? Like I intellectually, I hear that, but I don't feel that at all. And so, I'm more than happy. Like people reach out on social media. I just want to help people like I was helped, right? Because there's little tweaks that someone will say, you don't think about, as being on air. There's little things you might repeat all the time that you don't know you're saying. Or, we had a consultant once who looked at my tape and it was like, don't tell me to take my raincoat or umbrella, and so I started thinking, you know what, that's right. And back then there was paper bags. I'm like, you know what, the paper bag gets wet in the rain, all the groceries fall out. So I started, learning. It's a real technique, to learn. And if I can help instill that into someone and kind of teach them the ways, then I'm more than happy to.
Okay. Be the Mentor Now live. This podcast is called Tracks to Success. All right. Your success and your journey is your own. You own it. But what's one piece of advice that you would give to anybody trying to break into the TV business?
Never give up. If I had one piece of advice, never give up, because I'm sure like you, maybe not though, you're Kraig. Come on. I got a lot of rejection letters.
Me
right?
too. I saved every one, by the way.
So do I. Have them in a photo album too. So I would say never give up, work as hard as you can and think out of the box. That is key. And listen to people. I would go around when I first got to the Weather Channel and I asked one of the guys who would do a bunch of packages. I'm like, could we sit and do like my voice? I need to get my voice. Sure. And he would sit there with me like an hour once a week or whatever. And we would read script just to like help me learn how to read script better. I sat with one of my bosses back in the day and he's the one that was like, if you're out on a live shot, you need to move. There's a reason you're out. And I'm like, great, And so not to be like offended by tips that people are giving you.
Yeah, that's really cool. I tell people, don't wait for people to take notice. Do things that are relevant, that add value, that make people take notice, and work your tail off.
And I would say the other piece of advice, and this was one of my bosses, I asked to go into hurricanes. I got there in 2003. Remember 2004, 2005 were historic. In 2003, the second I got there, I was like, I want to go out in hurricanes. And so I went to his office like every week. I'm like, can I go yet? Can I go yet? Can I go yet? Can I go yet? So be persistent and voice what you want to do and just do what you want to do. If you come up with an idea, just do it. I still do that now. I started a new series called Science with Steph. I'm like, hey, I'm going to do this. Okay. And you just do it, they'll use it. Yeah. And so those are some of the pieces of advice that I would give to anyone in any profession, no matter what it is.
All right. 2 quick little things. Does Stephanie Abrams hang out at the beach? And like, if you do, does everybody come up to you and go, what a beautiful sunny day. Hey, is it going to rain later? Like what happens when people see you out there? Do you get bombarded by weather questions?
Not very often, but I have the hat and sunglasses on type of a thing. I just read my book, and kind of stay to myself. Usually Jim, he's a little more recognizable with that bald head. People will start running the other direction type of thing when he's at the beach.
Yeah. Okay, guess what? We're going to end this where we started, sort of.
Okay.
All right. You said you would love to go to space, into
Yeah.
outer space. All right. What planet? What would you do? How long would you be there?
Ooh.
Would you ever come back? Like, would you want to work on the International Space Station?
I think that would be incredible. Do you not think that would be incredible?
I don't know. I'm afraid of heights, number one. And I don't know that I could make it there. Plus, I'm a little bit high maintenance sometimes. I don't know about showers and stuff like that.
Right. And all that sort of stuff. I mean, I think I'd have to go to Jupiter, right? Because it has that huge storm on Jupiter, the big red spot, which now they're saying is orange. But I mean, I think I would have to go there to see the big, huge, biggest storm like in our universe.
So you would love it. You'd go up there for 2 weeks. If they named you as the next female to go up into outer space, you'd be there in a heartbeat.
Yes. If I could do it. I mean, in my old age now in roller coasters, like I used to be front of the roller coaster, hands up, ready to go. I mean, I don't know, like they put you really through the ringer to have to get up into space. I once was on one of those trick planes where you flip around and all this sort of stuff. And I think I pulled like half a G and I was like, I'm nauseous. I don't know if I can do it. And they were like, really, Abrams? Like, come on now. You got to pull more G's than that. So, yeah.
When you wake up tomorrow, do you want it to be sunny or do you want rain to talk about?
I would say I would like rain to talk about, but I would like it to be sunny because it's been raining so much in the South. It would be nice to have some sun.
You have been a ray of sunshine on this podcast. I've been looking forward to this. Stephanie, I think the world of your work, and you are so much fun. I truly appreciate the time we just got to spend.
Well, I hope we get to see each other sooner than later again.
Take care, Stephanie. Thanks so much.
You too. Yeah, no worries. Thanks for having me.
In our conversation, Stephanie shared stories about being in the eye of the storm and facing stormy times head on, which leads me to my one last thing. If you want to be an influencer, find a way to be your best when times are toughest. There's a saying about ship captains that says, anyone can hold the helm when the sea is calm. And with that also comes the line that experienced sailors didn't learn from calm seas. In my workshops, I talk about how executive presence means, among other things, having a calming way when times are tough. Not many people pay attention to your leadership when things are going great, but when things get a little rocky for everybody, that's when people look at you to see how you'll react. Building a leadership brand requires you to have answers for people when they're struggling. It also requires you to be a good listener and also to be able to communicate clearly and with purpose when there's a crisis. So stand tall, learn to weather the storm, and show others the way. Do that, and your tracks to success become a whole lot easier. I'm Kraig Kann. Until next time, thanks for listening.
You've been listening to Tracks to Success, brought to you by Presentation Partners, visual storytellers passionate about connecting presenters with their audience. Don't forget to subscribe to the show for more great interviews and thoughts on reaching your highest personal and professional summit. You can follow Kraig on Twitter and Instagram using the handle @Kraig Kann. And for exclusive Tracks to Success content and news about our upcoming guests, you can find Tracks to Success on Twitter. It's @Tracks to Success.